Well, welcome back, everyone, to yet another episode of Behind the Anchor. It is Wednesday, the best day of the week, in my opinion, maybe besides Saturday, because, of course, that's game day. But right now, we get to talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Coach Jim Fleming.
What's up, Noah? How we doing, man?
Man, I'm sitting here with you. It doesn't get much better than this.
No, it's a fun thing to do ever since we started this. I really do look forward to spending time with you and kind of figuring out where you're going to go with these questions.
Well, we're going to jump right into these questions, and it is Halloween, man. Halloween is upon us. And are you a fan of Halloween?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's cool. I remember, it was always such a, it was a painful night when you had all the little kids. You get home from work and sit there late, and it was always during the season, and then you'd hustle home, but you get to see them, and then you'd start walking around the neighborhood. So that was a lot of fun. I remember back in high school doing heinous things like kids do, eggs and all that bad stuff.
Garbage cans on fire.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I don't know if I did all that, but I do like it. It's a fun time, and I know everybody else does love it, and it's always a big weekend on campus, and just always hope that my kids come on out of it safe.
Fair enough. Now, when you think back to not only, we're going to go even further than your kids. We're going to go back to your youth.
Right on.
And when you were growing up, what was one of your favorite costumes? Or maybe a couple if you got them.
I have really no idea what my costumes were. I really don't. But I do remember very clearly, we were living in New York City. And, that is a huge opportunity to get tons of candy. Because all you got to do is go to an apartment building.
Yeah.
And then you start going up the stairs, and you come on down. We come on with sacks of them. And I still remember going into my G.I. Joe Foot Locker. They used to have a G.I. Joe Foot Locker, and was still eating Halloween candy right before Easter. It wasn't the freshest stuff.
Well, I'm glad you're here to tell the tale. I'm surprised that those Snickers bars didn't give you a run for your money.
I don't think there's much of a short shelf life for most candy. I think it stays around for a while.
Now, when you think about all the things that come with Halloween, one of the big things is pumpkin products, right? We're talking pumpkin pie, pumpkin seeds, pumpkin lattes. People got pumpkin scent, everything you can imagine. But what's your favorite kind of pumpkin product, if you even like pumpkin?
I would think it would be pumpkin pie. I think that's good. A little bit of whipped cream on top of that. And you're rocking and rolling. Yeah.
Hot take, I don't really like pumpkin pie.
You don't?
I don't. I'm more of an apple pie.
Well, I'm much more of a strawberry rhubarb pie if I'm really making a choice.
All right.
I mean, you asked me about pumpkins. Yeah, I don't eat pumpkin seeds. I don't drink pumpkin lattes. I don't even know what a pumpkin latte is. So it goes right now deferring back to pumpkin pie.
Oh, fair enough. Now, last week's question of the day was favorite candy themed. And you answered dots, but not only did you answer dots, but you came out and you had some passion when you said it. You came out and you were dots and kept on rolling, didn't even think twice about it. I mean, what is, why that, and then maybe top 4 other candies?
Golly, I don't know why dots. I don't know. I mean, I like the colored candy-ish, stuff. I mean, I like Chuckles.
Yep.
Chuckles were always big. I remember my dad used to bring those home, and we'd all grab one. Or I have 3 brothers, and before my sister came along, and we'd always leave the licorice one for him so he could have that. But then I've gotten older, I kind of like the licorice one too. But Chuckles, Skittles, Dots, Musketeers, Milky Ways.
Yep.
And then you mix in. That my wife makes candy bags for every single football player every game.
I did not.
You did not. So when they get their post-game meal, they get their post-game meal plus a candy bag.
So that's where that came from.
Yes, which used to, they all have an RI on them that she hand draws, and then she fills it with the same exact pieces of candy in each one of these bags. It's painstaking. It drives me crazy because I don't see her at all when she's just sitting there doing her thing. But the point is that I will go into the candy, you probably say it's depot at our house, which is right on the dining room table during the football season. And, so I'll try Butterfinger here or there. I will expand my taste a little bit, but yes, favorites, I think that's enough. Skittles, you got to go with Skittles too.
Man, your house is sounding more and more enticing every time. You're talking about all these wonderful things that your wife's got going on. Yep. We're talking about movie nights. Man.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's a good spot to hang. We'll have to get you over there. We'll do a road show and we'll come over to the house and do it. Yeah, we'll put that on the list.
Well, first thing is thank you to the missus for the candy. I did not know where those were coming from, and along with the Chick-fil-A, that was a wonderful addition on the road back.
Yeah, I'm glad you got that. The other thing she does, she makes a birthday cake for every single kid on the team when their birthdays come up. No, it's crazy. It's cost me about $5,000 a year. That's the thing I worry about.
She says, "I'll make it. You pay for it."
I mean,
fair enough.
Cake's expensive, man.
Before we get into any trouble, we're gonna go back to the Halloween theme before either of us get in trouble.
Absolutely.
And now, would you rather have to trick or treat every day for the rest of your life, or go to every social event dressed in a Halloween costume?
Wow. I think I'd like to go to every social event in a Halloween costume.
Switch it up a little bit.
But you got to pick up the costume. You got to pick out the costume for me.
Okay.
What would you send me?
Oh man, I'm going Greek god. I mean, we're talking no tights.
Talking Zeus. I like Zeus. You like Poseidon?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
something you can get down with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some gold, shiny.
A minotaur. I like that thought. Yeah. A ram?
Yeah.
A minotaur is part of a ram, right?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Yep, ram family.
Educated here.
There you go. Take notes, kids.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what would you choose? Spending a day as a ghost or a zombie?
A ghost. You got to go with ghost. That would be really cool. Because you're really you're see-through, right?
Yeah. And
you can go do stuff and scare people, and zombies freak me out, so... We'll leave the zombies for other people, man. I don't want to be a
zombie. Would you rather walk through a haunted house or be one of the people dressed up to scare people in that haunted house?
You sparked so many stories for me. I remember, this is off the subject. What I'd rather do, I'd rather walk through it than be one of the people to scare people. But, I took my kids when we were in Greenville, North Carolina, East Carolina, and they were younger, and I took them through this haunted house, and some dude was there with a chainsaw, and he was going after my kid. I almost punched it. I mean, because it was like the kid was freaking out. I'm going, okay, we don't need any more of this. And he kept putting it in his face. I didn't know what. So I'd rather go.
Fair enough. Now, most important question of the whole segment right here. Forget football. Forget everything. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to separate that, right? Is it a ghost like, Casper, the Friendly Ghost? Is it a Halloween ghost, or is it a spirit? I don't believe in ghosts. I do believe in spirits. I do believe that they hang around, and I do believe that they present themselves at times. I think it's what I think.
Fair enough. Love it. Now let's jump into football. We'll get serious here now, as we'll put Halloween in the past for now. And let's talk about Maine and just some takeaways. But first off, how significant has it been for your young offense to have an offensive line that has now gone, weeks on end without giving up a sack and just continuing to pave the way for a dominant run game?
Well, I mean, it means everything. When you talk about football, you talk about where it starts. It starts in the trenches.
Yep.
It starts with a major question mark at the beginning of the year because we had so many new positions and big shoes to fill. Had a new offensive line coach, Mike Flanagan, that, has done an incredible job with these guys. And what it means that these kids have, toughness. They have very much pride in what they do. And they're getting better each and every week. And hope we didn't jinx the old sack deal, but I mean, it is. They're very impressive. I mean, they went through the New Hampshire game and the Maine game with very highly recognized pass rushers, and they handle their business. So it means everything. And you've seen as they develop, so does our offense, and so does Dev's confidence. He's had a bunch of pocket throws that are, in a nice pocket. So I'm really proud of that, and I love the way that they approach the game each and every day. So just looking for them to continue to improve. They play hurt, they play through injuries, they go in and out, and so got a bunch of guys that are working together, and it's a critical component for our team.
And when you talk about sacks, some people would say in some situations that a sack is more valuable than a turnover itself. But this past weekend, we saw that defensive line really just continue to come alive, but turned it into 6 sacks this past Saturday. Just talk about, what that means and being able to see that defense continue to just put on a show every weekend.
Well, I think what it really it shows that they can close a game.
Yep.
Because I don't know what the numbers were in the last couple of drives. I thought it was most of the sacks came at that point in time, and sometimes it's arguable that just pressure on the quarterback is just as good as a sack, forcing a bad throw or something. But when, we hit the 3 points, Ty Groff hits that field goal, gets us up to a 2-score game, and those guys get to pin their ears back and go. I mean, it's pretty impressive. I think they're coached extremely well. Coach Lazard does a good job coming up each and every week with the twist games and some pressure schemes to be able to, manipulate or take advantage of their protection schemes. And our kids are athletic enough and fast enough, and there's a number of different combinations that makes it hard on an offensive lineman. And it was really cool to see, I think Kareem Wilson got his first sack. Primrose had a couple. AJ always showing up. You know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Burb's on his way.
Awesome. Now, we're going to go back, and I want you to kind of put yourself in the mindset of when that, just wild play, mid-kickoff, deflects off of Moses, and it turned into almost like a pop fly into no man's land. All of a sudden, here comes Gage Hinckley. He gets it. And just talk about, in my mind, one of the most wildest plays of the season that we've seen.
Yeah, because you think about that time, if it had gone to them, problem, short field and tight ball game.
Yep.
Funnily or not so funnily, I sat there and I talked to Moses before because, that lines up near or, somewhat near to the kicker every week. And he's a very, good player in that position. But I told him, I said, hey, they're going to try to hit it at you. I said, so take some move to the right, get out of the way. And he didn't move far enough right. But, there, sure enough, the guy drills it at him. And it just bounced off his noggin. And Gage Hinckley, who's a guy that, has played his 4 games, and now we're going to put the red shirt on him because we think he's a very talented young kid. Just handled it like nobody's business. He just looked up, all right, there's a ball and catch it when you really don't know how someone's going to act in that kind of wild scenario. But, the ball's got to bounce right for you in this game sometimes. And I think we had 2, Franco Harris type things, that one, and then the kick by Amari Walker to Tommy Smith for the 10, 12 yard gain or whatever that set up the winning field goal.
Yep. Crazy. I just feel like every time you see one of those bizarre plays, you always just think back on all the other, bizarre plays that you've seen throughout your life of watching football. And you just have all these crazy memories in there. But, when you talk about, craziness and environment, what was your kind of favorite part of the environment? Obviously, being back here at Meade Stadium, it was loud and it was packed. Just talk about, what that meant to you and the team to be able to get that done at home.
It means everything to the team. I'm glad, once I get to the game and I waddle on out to the 50-yard line, I turn my back on everything. All I see is the other sideline, and very rarely do I turn around and look up in the stands. But I thought it was a great environment for the kids to play in. I know they get juiced up, and Rhody Ruckus, those guys, man, I think right behind the defensive bench, they've been there, almost every home game. It seems to be growing, and it's cool as heck. Our defensive guys, are just loving those guys. I think they have interactions, talking back and forth, and probably, and Laurenti's probably leading the charge that way. So it's very much appreciated. The kids had a good time. The families that were there, the alumni. I mean, it was just a fantastic day to be out watching a football game, and a good ball game.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And now we kind of jump forward to looking forward to now this weekend. And first of all, yet another sellout crowd here at home, and just, everything that comes with that. As we've seen the culture just really continue to evolve. The excitedness is here. That 7-1 record, of course, people are starting to get excited. And when you think about now, on top of that, now here comes a team in Monmouth that the last time these two teams played, I think we probably had heart rates through the roof. I think we probably had players on medical support. And probably, I don't know what your emotions were, but hopefully you'll be able to tell us a little bit about that. But a historic 7 overtime, 48-46 victory the last time these two teams played.
That was crazy. I'm not so certain. I'm pretty certain it was the first year we went to the new overtime rules.
Yeah.
Where, a couple of shots and then you got to go into 2-point conversion. So it was phenomenal. But I mean, I remember like yesterday, from a coach's perspective, you get yourself into an overtime game, it can go either way just like that.
Yeah.
And, you hope to win the toss so you can play defense first and then be able to figure out what has to happen on the offensive side. But you just kind of throw caution to the wind and you start calling plays.
Right.
Both guys were ripping it and they were getting stuff done. But at the end of it, when I think it was, Ed Lee scored the touchdown and then spiked the ball, no penalty, thank you. And then Jordan Jones, I believe, came there and knocked out a pass. I mean, it was very memorable, and to be able to have that experience got me a ball that's sitting up there about the 7 overtime win, and it was a good one and a big one for us. But there was just so many moments in that game, and I don't necessarily want to go 7 overtimes again, but that had an impact on our season, because we went the next week to William and Mary and felt like we had played so much football we had to go ahead and go for that 2-point conversion, which we didn't get that following week. But it was a cool game.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember just watching that, and thinking to myself, is this game ever gonna end? Again, you think of those moments. Right? You're like, okay, all right, well, I hope not, but also at the same time, hopefully when it does end, you'll end up on the right side of things.
Yep.
But you guys did. Now, when you talk about Monmouth now moving past that last game and into this year's team, one of the most explosive offenses in the FCS, right? And this is definitely one of the biggest challenges that you guys have faced this year, averaging 40 points per game. Just how do you prepare for that kind of offense, but also knowing that you have such an elite defense?
Well, I mean, you prepare like you do every other week. Now, obviously they're coming off a tough loss to Towson, and Towson held their points down. So I mean, when you look at other people's game plans, there's things you can look that they might have struggled with that will adopt some of those things and work them into our plan. But the piece we've got to do against these guys is to be able to prevent the explosives. Their explosive play list is staggering. Reverse big play. 96-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Just running by people. They've got really good personnel. Their quarterback's a kid who was at Maine, Robertson, and then ended up transferring into Monmouth. Good player, gets rid of the ball quick. So, we got our hands full with their offense, but I think that they've got their hands full with our offense.
Mm.
And we've seen how the season goes, and complementary football, our offense is going to have to score some points to beat these guys.
Yep, absolutely. Now, Saturday's family weekend game is the quickest sellout that the teams have had this season. And, what makes this game so special, even, when you compare it to a game like homecoming?
Well, I mean, I think that there's excitement about football, but it is Parents' Weekend, and even when there wasn't as much excitement about football, you could always count on that weekend to be a solid crowd.
Yeah.
When I first got here, it was strange. They had combined Parents' Weekend and Homecoming,
Yes.
which was
Yes.
like kind of unusual for me because you'd at least get two good crowds.
Yeah.
But since we've had some success, they split it into two different weekends, and I think that it's a big weekend. Your parents are coming.
Right.
Everybody is coming in to spend time with their children, to be able to see the environment, see the school, see how they operate, see what the vibe is like, and then to be able to have a good Saturday afternoon, great weather, go on out and watch a football game at Meade, and ideally watch the Rams win. It sends everybody off to their different dinner reservations in a good mood, and it's all about the pride of Rhode Island, the pride of being a URI Ram, that their children, made the choice to come to, and they're there to support those kids, and I'm excited that they're going to be here for a very significant football game.
Yeah, well, just before we move on to that next question, to go off of something that you said, in previous years where maybe you guys weren't having the best year, it's still a game where, the crowd is going to come. They're going to be there. But this year, wipe that away, because now you guys, have really put together a darn good football team. And as we keep saying, or you keep saying, the greatest football is still yet to be played.
Yeah.
And we haven't broken that down maybe yet from last week, but if you're thinking that, like I'm thinking, I would think that that's still out there to be played. And I mean, just what does that mean now that that not only on top of this crowd is coming in, but that you have a good, a football team that's going to excite everybody?
I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I obviously get a lot of support from people, texting, about what they experienced at Meade watching the football game. And, it comes up more times than not. They like the brand of football that's being played. How we operate offensively and defensively is recognizable and fun and entertaining. So I think that's really cool. I mean, it's about winning, but again, if you can win with style and you can win with a good experience, and, those people in the stands are inspired by how you perform on Saturdays, I think that there's a lot to take away, not only from our football team and the fans, the university, the state, those things keep on coming up. We really want to be able to represent this state, and as a winner, that's why we play the games, try to keep on doing them.
Now, you guys are one win away right now from the program's best start since 2001. But with that in mind, as we've talked about, we also will say, how do you keep, the team focused on a 1 week at a time mentality and not getting too ahead of themselves when just preparing for each week?
I mean, how do you? I mean, how do you guarantee it? I mean, it's all communication now. I mean, they got to be listening.
Yeah.
And I got after them this morning a little bit, just in the sense that, you have to stay short focused. You have to stay disciplined on the things that have gotten you here, and you can't let the little details go by the wayside as all of a sudden you feel like you're pretty good. So, there's certain little things that kids cut in a corner here or there, not doing everything the way we want it done. And so that's easy to be able to address with them. But, to keep them grounded, it's really more of a repetitive thing that we do. Really started in training camp. I had a good conversation with Jeff Wozencroft, who is doing an incredible, job, leading us in a management position of our entire football program. And we just started talking about practice, racks of 4, because that's the way we practice in the summer. We go 4 days and off, 4 days and off, and each rack of 4 during training camp we try to improve, and so that was a short-term focus. And now we've gone racks of 4 with, September, racks of 4 with October, and now we've got a significant rack of 4 coming up here in November. And, we know that, everything's at stake in this, that no one's going to lay down on the field for us and say, oh, you're Rhode Island, we can't beat you. They're going to come in full guns blazing, because just like, every time you start being successful, what do people want to do? They want to knock you down. And that's what we're going to have to be prepared for, and we're going to have to continue to improve on this final rack. We got 4 quality opponents, and it starts with Monmouth. If we can knock that bad boy out and get to 8, man, I'm taking a good exhale, because that's a number we haven't been able to get to yet.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Behind the Anchor. I'm Noah McLane, and today we have a special guest with us. It's the wide receivers coach, Tyler Loftus. And, Coach, first of all, wonderful to sit down with you today.
Great to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, let's jump right into some things. You were originally a coach here. You took some time away, went off to UConn, now come back. But what did it mean to you personally to kind of come back to this Rhode Island football this past offseason?
Yeah, I was so fortunate to be here the time before, and we were able to have some success. And I think for me, it was all about kind of coming back and finishing where we left off, and that's pushing for a conference championship, pushing to make a playoff run, and being able to coach a great group of young men. And that's what I've been looking forward to doing.
Absolutely. Well, you got a good team this year to do it, I'd say. So fantastic. Now, with what you've seen kind of along the way, what has been the most notable developments within the program from when you kind of took a step away from the program for a short term and now have come back as a wide receivers coach?
Yeah, there's been a few things. Part of it is our front office at Rhode Island, and having these guys and this group here to really help aid recruitment, development, and some of the things that are behind the scenes. The stadium development, that is a huge thing that'll be done here in the next couple of years of rebuilding kind of that stands. And, President Parlange, our AD Thor, and Coach Flem making the push this summer to get all the guys to campus and have them here for really summer session 1 and 2, I think has paid dividends.
Absolutely. Now, when you were looking at your previous role as a tight ends coach here in 2021, to now, working with quarterbacks at UConn and Holy Cross, kind of just a whole bunch of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And when you kind of look at that, how does that experience kind of prepare you to your role now as a wide receivers coach?
Yeah, I think I've been super fortunate to be around some great coaches, some really good players, and that's starting as a player at Wagner to Morrisville with Kurt Fitzpatrick, where he was able to win a national championship at Division III level this last year. Pat Murphy, who's obviously the OC here, with Bob Chesney at Holy Cross, and a lot of the staff here. And the last place I was at, Jim Mora, who's a longtime NFL coach, and Nick Charlton. So I think overall understanding of kind of the pass game holistically from a quarterback's mindset has been helpful, and just being around and fortunate enough some good coaches, good receivers over the years.
Awesome. Now, the offensive game in the beginning of the season kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start, but now it's seemingly like that everybody is kind of finding their rhythm. Just talk about the capability to have such a young group and a deep group. There's a lot of guys that can step up into that mentality if one guy needs to go off, but just having that talented group of receivers.
Yeah, we're so fortunate, and I think it starts really overall, it's everyone. It's the guys up front blocking. It's the quarterback delivering the rock. And, we're fortunate to be pretty deep at the receiver position. There's a lot of guys that can play. There's not always enough reps to go around. But I think there's some really, really talented group that still has not played their best game yet. And that's something that we've been working for, and really excited because we know that that's ahead of us and could be at just the right time.
Now, when you think about all of the programs that you've kind of been through, either as a player and now in your coaching career, what makes Rhode Island stand out, and what makes Rhode Island different to where you want to come back to this place? Yeah,
I think, the culture is something that's huge here. There's been a great, family atmosphere for my wife, my son, and they're involved. They're at all the games and the trips and just the people. And I'm very fortunate to a few of the guys, because of COVID, are still here. The Tommy Smiths and, the Brady Rourks, and Tommy coming over to my room, being able to coach him for his last year and building relationships with some great kids, some of the Alvarez Bakers of the world, and seeing some of these guys grow, develop, their personalities shine. And just such a wonderful program to get the opportunity to do this.
Awesome, Coach. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you.
Well, you heard it right there. 8 is the number that we're looking for. It is going to be rocking and rolling this weekend. So make sure, if you guys are watching right now And, well, if you haven't bought your ticket, sorry. But if you have and you had any hesitation about coming, well, you want to be here. This is the place to be this Saturday. You or I in Monmouth. But again, Coach, thank you so much for all of your time.
Thank you.
Always appreciate it. We'd also like to give a shout out to our other special guest, Tyler Loftus, for joining us this week. And again, I'm Noah McLane, and this is another episode of Behind the Anchor.